Welcome to Wisconsin in Focus. I'm Bruce Walker, Great Lakes Regional Editor for the Center Square. Joining me today is the Center Square Wisconsin correspondent Benjamin Yount, who today filed a story on Governor Tony Evers' building capital plan. Do tell what is going on. His building plan has basically loaded up wheelbarrows full of cash and earmarked them for the University of Wisconsin system.
Yeah, you have the sort of operating budget, and this gets to be a little sort of, State House 101. You have the operating budget, which is the day-to-day. That's the paychecks. That's, in Wisconsin, the road fund goes through there. It's also everything else that you imagine from state government. You then have what's called the capital plan, capital with an A at the end, and that's the building plan, not the OL. This is not for the State House itself. This is the capital investment plan. So that's buildings, remodeling, fixing up, and most of it goes to the UW system. And again, 13 campuses, lots of buildings. Governor Evers has, for his first 3 budgets now, 2 in his first 4 years and one in this term, has been a staunch supporter of the UW system. And there isn't a science building or a dormitory upgrade that the UW wants that the governor hasn't supported. But there's a new report from WIL, the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, that looks past the UW system budget and gets to where some of this other money is going to go. And when you break it down, WIL found a couple of $1 million, and not an insignificant amount of millions of dollars, in pork barrel projects, $62 million in things that I don't know in things that WIL says it doesn't know would benefit the state. They also point out just how much of this money is going to non-state agency requests and how much more Governor Evers is spending than Governor Walker did during his 2 terms in office.
Okay, well, let me jump in right there. How long has it been since UW has raised the tuition? It's been a while, hasn't it?
Well, the tuition hike is different from the capital plan. And you're right that the University of Wisconsin has not raised tuition in a decade, but this is just from the state money to the university to build buildings. The example that gets held out quite often, I believe, is Schrader Hall up at University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, their marquee science building that they've been building in chunks and pieces. The tuition hike and what that means for students is something completely different. Same sort of idea of supporting the university and giving the university pretty much whatever it asks for, but that comes from the university itself and not necessarily from the governor. This one is more focused on the pieces of the pie and who gets what and where does everything go. And when you look at the pie chart, Will broke this down, and their report is beyond the budget, the surge of non-agency pork in Wisconsin. When you look at sort of the pie chart that comes with every budget breakdown, the biggest chunk, 47%, that goes to the University of Wisconsin. All other state agencies, Department of Natural Resources, Department of Human Services, the Department of this, the Department of that, they take up 17%. All other state agencies take up 17% of the governor's proposed spending plan. Then there's a miscellaneous, then it's prisons, and the very next large chunk, so 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th largest chunk of the governor's spending plan for buildings goes to these non-state agencies, these other places in Wisconsin that are asking for money, the places that Will points out don't really necessarily have a statewide benefit.
Will's takeaway from this?
Well, Will's takeaway is that we should be watching very closely where this money goes. The examples that Will puts out in this report, there's $15 million in the governor's building plan for a new sports and convention center in Janesville. There's another $9 million and change to build a private soccer stadium in Milwaukee. There's $7 million to expand the National Railroad Museum up in Green Bay. Another $5 million that the governor wants to send to Bronzeville for the Center of the Arts in Milwaukee. And then there's $1 million to upgrade the dormitories of the Peninsula Players Theater up in Door County. If you're not familiar, this is sort of a summer stock theater production company, and they've got a beautiful old theater up in Door County, beautiful area in the summer, and the dorms are sort of basic, but these young professional actors come and stay, and they do Once Upon a Shakespeare and something else. Because I'm not a theater guy, I don't have a second example. But the Will Report makes the point that when you think of a statewide building plan, you think of things that benefit the entire state. If the prison up in Green Bay, which is pushing 100-something years old, needs to be replaced, you can make the case that there's a statewide benefit. Safer for the inmates, safer for the guards. It will boom with construction dollars in Green Bay, and that will help the rest of the state. The report from Will questions just how much $7 million for the Railroad Museum in Green Bay is going to help. Questions whether this $15 million for a new sports and convention center in Janesville is going to be better than the, $20 million sports and convention center area just over the border in Rockford, Illinois. And finally, the Will Report makes the point that this doesn't include the $290 million that Governor Evers says he wants to help pay for the Brewers Stadium, American Family Field with.
I was going to bring that up. Because he was looking at what?
Yeah, almost $300 million. Now, the expectation there is something will be done with the Brewers. The governor's plan won't be done. And this shows sort of the balancing act, right? A good chunk of this report explains how public benefits, it explains how these statewide building projects are weighed, that they have to be of a statewide benefit. And Wisconsin lawmakers, the Republicans who run the legislature, are spending a lot of time this spring trying to figure out that balance for the Brewers Stadium. Okay, if we help keep the team, then all of those millionaires pay an income tax here in Wisconsin. So the math that they are working out is how to get just enough help for the team so they can say, well, we gave them $2 million, but we get $4 million a year back in income tax. So we're a net $2 million in the green. There is no such $1 million bonus by upgrading the dorms for the Peninsula Players Theater in Door County, Will insists. And so that's the interesting caveat here. One of the other points that this makes is that Governor Evers has been very apt over the past 4 years to spend this non-state agency money, whereas Governor Walker wasn't. Governor Walker approved about 53%, 54% of these non-state agency requests, these $1 million grants for this, that, and the other thing. Governor Evers is okaying about 75% of those. And remember, this also doesn't include all of that coronavirus stimulus money that the governor handed out over the past 3 years. That money went to every single minor league franchise in the state of Wisconsin, almost every theater, almost every ski resort. The governor used tourism dollars to help boost those. And now Will's report lays out another $62 million in other non-state agency help. So it is another snapshot, to use the term, of just where Wisconsin's money would go if Governor Evers had his way, because, of course, the Joint Finance Committee will now decide what gets spent upon and what doesn't, and it will be very, 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 very interesting to see what does not get money.
Listeners can keep up with the story and more at thecentersquare.com. This is Bruce Walker, Great Lakes Regional Editor for The Center Square. Please subscribe, and thank you for listening.